Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Flames Unfiltered. We are your hosts, Kyle Lewis and Brad Burud. And for those of you watching on YouTube, you will notice that I'm wearing a Winnipeg Jets jersey as a show of solidarity for one of the greatest hockey games that I think I've ever watched. Brad, what is going on?
Well, playoffs go to round 2 tonight as Toronto, Florida kicks off. Last night we watched Winnipeg. I don't even know what to describe. We'll talk about it later. It's something. It's something else. It's something else. I just kind of been minding my own business.
Wouldn't it be nice if more people did that?
Watching playoffs, just I don't know. I don't know if it's because summer's here or coming now that like it just seems like my life went into like turbo gear, and some days I get stressed out probably more than I should. And today is one of those days, but I guess I'm still laughing. So that's good.
Yeah, we kind of said the same thing like before we jumped on. I've had I think I told you I had like 98 phone calls today for work, which is not an unusual day for me this time of year, but it's tiring. It's tiring. And it's tiring, when you stay up late watching hockey and try to live your life in your leisure time like you normally would, right?
I think that plays a factor. I think it really, really
100%,
does.
100%.
And then I was just like we said, we were just kind of just watching the playoffs, and I wasn't really thinking a lot about the Flames this week. I really wasn't. And then all of a sudden, Conroy goes and locks up Coronato, and then my mind shifted gears to Calgary stuff, and it was pretty cool.
Well, that's kind of the thing. And what I find this time of year that's so difficult is when your team's out and you want to, you mentioned you like Ottawa a lot, so it was hard to see them go out, right?
It was. I like their makeup.
And I find it's difficult, to really latch on to a team. But when they give you a game like the one that the Jets and Blues gave us last night, it just changes things. Like it makes hockey fans out of young kids who may not otherwise have cared about hockey because of what they saw that night. It makes you appreciate a young player like Cole Perfetti with, 2 beautiful redirections. It's just different, and it kind of brings you back into the playoffs, and you may not have had as much interest because your team's not in. So that's what I appreciate with games like that, which is why, by the way, of course, this is a Trevor Lewis jersey. Yeah.
We talked about it last week a little bit on the show, and let's talk playoffs first, and then we'll get into the Coronato stuff, and I want to talk about some other Flames RFAs that we may get news on any day, right? Mm-hmm. Last night's game, going into this St. Louis Winnipeg game, I'm not trying to sound Debbie Downer. I think I vowed on the show like 6 weeks ago, I'm going to be a more positive person, and I've tried. Today's has been a little bit of a challenge, but I honestly thought that St. Louis was going to roll Winnipeg last night, and they had started out that way, didn't it? And all I could think of the whole night was, what's poor Connor Hellebuck going to get asked after this game?
Yeah. Everybody was talking about it, right?
Yeah, I felt like that was not going to be a positive thing, and then goals with seconds to go, the final one with 2.2 seconds to go, and the guy that we've praised all along, Adam Lowry, comes through in the clutch and sends this team to the second round. And injuries plagued, although the Dallas team that's heading into the second round to take on Winnipeg is injury plagued. It's setting up for some pretty interesting series. The West is really, really interesting. Actually, 3 of the 4, I'm interested in 3 of the 4 series. Guess which one I don't care?
Carolina, Washington.
Does anybody care? I don't know. Is it just me? Who cares? I never watch New Jersey. I never watch Carolina, and I never watch Washington. I don't know why. It's not right of me. I know. And I actually got Carolina picked to win the cup this year. So like I should be interested. I can't get into those games for some reason. But you put an Edmonton game on, anything can happen. It's fun to watch. You put a Winnipeg game on, anything can happen. It's fun to watch. And I think Toronto, Florida is going to be a bloodbath.
It likely is, yeah. And the reasons you just listed are the same reason most of them are in a series. I'm not sure why it is the larger hockey population seems to struggle getting into Carolina series. Even Washington, the Ovechkin thing, Tom Wilson's obviously a big playoff performer, but it's probably going to be a great series. It just doesn't have like the storylines maybe that the other ones seem to.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, there is some interesting factors that I think are going to make that series pretty entertaining in the long run. But if it was like the finals, the Eastern Conference Finals, I'd probably be more interested in it than I am now because the other three series are very, very intriguing. And you know what? We talked about this Winnipeg game being such a barn burner. How about the Dallas, Colorado? And what's the irony that Rantanen's the guy that pops off 3 goals in the game 7, and one of them, I heard a statistic today, and I hope I have this right because I was driving and I couldn't write it down and whatnot. But this is only the second time in Stanley Cup history that there was only one other time, and it was a long, long time ago, that a team has come back from 2-goal deficit in the third period of a game 7. And I was like, wow, is that really for real? And it happens 2 nights in a row. And it makes sense, And then they were talking about how in the 80s, if you had a 3-1 lead in a game 7, you just literally tackled everybody even close to the puck and nothing was called. And that was the game.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, and it's interesting too because games like that, like where you mentioned like where so many injuries, occur throughout the course of the game and throughout the course of the series, it really changes the storylines a lot too, right? And seeing like I mentioned, I remember on the show last year, someone how I thought the Jets should really throw Cole Perfetti in the lineup against Colorado, and not to say he would have done as well last year when he was a year younger, but man, he was.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah, he was an absolute star for Winnipeg.
Yeah, be a fun series. Where do you see the Winnipeg Dallas series going?
Well, based on the injuries both of them have, I can't really say for sure. I like to think it's going to be a lengthy series, like another 6 or 7 games, which they obviously both just get out of. So it's going to be tough, but we'll see how it plays out. I think 6 or 7.
What's your thoughts on? Does Winnipeg get through this? Does Hellebuck hold up?
That's man, I can't answer that.
Because
he came up big in the overtimes, like when he really had to, but I don't know.
I know, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Like I remember after game 3, I was like, "Oh, he'll be back with a vengeance in game 4," and he wasn't. And then game 5, I thought he was adequate. And then game 6 wasn't good again, and it's like, "Oh my gosh," And I thought, "Oh, game 7 will be great," and it's like didn't look good right away. But I guess in the end he was there. I mean, hopefully he's able to. We'll really see his character here and see if he can turn the page on that and put it behind him and start a fresh series. And I wish the guy the best. I remember a couple years ago listening to him. I don't even remember if it was on. I think it was on a 32 Thoughts Summer Edition, and he did an interview with Elliot Friedman, and he just sounds like the nicest guy in the world, and just a true competitor. And I wish him the best, and I hope he comes back. And I want Winnipeg to beat Dallas because I'm not a huge. I only like Heiskanen. He's the only guy in Dallas I like. So I'm interested to see what happens there. Vegas, Edmonton. I mean, it's going to be drama filled. It's going to be crazy, I think. I don't know that Edmonton. I don't know. How do I say this? The true LA Kings to me are probably a stronger competition for Edmonton than Vegas. I feel like Vegas's goaltending's. I don't know why Aiden Hill goes and wins the Stanley Cup, and I still don't give that team any goaltending credit at all. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't really know where I think about the Stars. I have a bit of a hard time with them. They've got some really, really great players, and I like Jake Ottinger a lot.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
Great, fantastic goaltender. And as far as that series goes, I just try to think if Winnipeg wasn't in it, I have some level of investment in, would I really be invested in the series if the Stars were playing somebody else? And I don't really know that I would. But I go back to a day when Dallas was a Western Conference power in the early 2000s, late 90s, along with Colorado and Detroit. And that's how I always kind of knew them. So I've never really related to them in more modern context because I just didn't care as long as the Flames beat them. But I mean, I know they're a really good team and obviously a cup contender. And I don't know. I'm curious actually to hear what other hockey fans think about this. What's it like for them when their favorite team's out? Do they feel that disconnection as well? And does it take a really epic game to drag them in, or do they just love watching anything?
I thought a lot about that because we touched on it last week, and it's one of those things. It's I think I'm having a harder time this year, and I think it might be because we were so close. If we'd have been last year, I didn't have a hard time, but we were out in early March last year. I think I had it on the calendar that we were pretty much history, and it gives you a little more time, right?
Yeah. I think like
deal before the
sense.
poll, if that makes sense.
Does anything make sense?
No. Does Edmonton win this series?
Man.
On the shoulders of Calvin Pickard.
Yeah, Moncton native. I don't know. I mean, if he can continue to play well, absolutely they have a chance. You can't not have a chance with McDavid and Draisaitl, but
yeah.
I don't know. Vegas is just such a strong team and so deep. So deep. That's a tough one. What, do you think they will?
I do. I actually think they do. I think Dallas wins. I think Edmonton wins. I think, believe it or not, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I think Toronto wins in 7, and I think Carolina wins in 5 over Washington. That's bold.
Yeah. I would say 6, but I think I do think that goes. The Carolina's gonna take that series for sure.
Yeah. Should we talk about what we came here to talk about today?
Sure. Take the lead. I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Saturday afternoon is when it went down, right? Yeah, Saturday afternoon. Matthew Coronato inked to a 7-year extension, $6.5 million. My thoughts are this. Prior to this happening, I kind of went through all the RFAs in my head and thought, what should we do with this guy? And I had thought that this was either going to be a 2-year bridge or like an 8-year deal. I was thinking he was going to get 7 or maybe 7.5 in a long-term deal. And I thought he was going to get about 4.5 to 5.5 on a bridge. He got 6.5 on a 7-year deal. I think that's perfect. Maybe a little much for a player right now, but it probably is going to age well and be a hell of a value on the backside of it.
Well, everything he does indicates a player that's going to age very well, or his contract's going to age very well, I should say. Like, unbelievable shot, worked really hard in his defense, really improved his skating. I don't see how this doesn't age well just because of the tools. It's not like he had a crazy high shooting percentage, or it's the benefited by playing with an unbelievable player. He had good line mates, don't get me wrong, but I mean, there's no bump here that made him better than he actually is. And anybody who suggests otherwise, and I've seen a few, I think they're just completely full of it.
I liked it. And I am a, you know me, we've talked enough about this. I was worried to sign out long-term deals. I kind of liken this to the Rasmus Anderson deal, which, as much as we can be frustrated right now with his play this year, it's aged well and it's been a great contract. So I kind of liken this one to that. I like this 7-year term. I like 6.5. Sounds good to me. I think the upside of Matthew Coronato is huge. Like I said last episode, his skating has gotten so much better, and it just changes the style of player this guy is and gives him more space, more room to move, and for us to see that shot that I think is in the top 10% in the National Hockey League.
Mm-hmm. There's no question. If you see it live, it's unreal. Like, I'm really happy with this contract. So let me ask you that very basically. How do you feel about it? Like, what's your personal feeling? I know you mentioned a few reasons as to, why it's good or maybe why it may not be construed as good, but how do you honestly feel?
I feel good. I feel good. I mean, I honestly thought it was going to be 7 or more. I did.
Yeah.
I feel like it was. I mean, is it a risk? Yeah, it's a risk. But tell me a contract that isn't a risk, right?
McDavid, really, you can give him whatever you want. It's going to be worth it.
I mean, there's
within reason, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a handful of players you can, give them a blank check. But I feel real comfortable with this. Do you?
Oh, 100%. I think it's a great contract. I wasn't expecting the timing of it. I mean, I guess it makes sense. He's not going to the Worlds. Yeah, he's not going to the Worlds, and the team is obviously inactive, currently, so it makes a lot of sense. But I was, when I opened my phone and saw, I'm like, oh wow, awesome, first domino's fallen, and it also sends a message that players are willing to be here and want to be here. American players, good
he's
players.
An American. Yeah, he's an American too. So yeah. I don't think that's a bad sign. That's a good sign, right? I'm super excited. I'm super excited to see the progression. 6.5 sounds like a lot, but like with the cap going up and this could be a hell of a deal on years 3, 4, 5, and 6 and 7, right? I mean, I was happy with his play this year. He was a plus player for this team when there wasn't a whole lot of them. He had 24 goals in 77 games, gets 17 plus minutes a night. I mean, and it wasn't like I look at his stats and it's like, I can't think that he's like a one-off. He had a 13.3 shot percentage. That's not like one-off numbers there either. So
yeah, it's not earth shattering.
I feel real comfortable. I feel really, really comfortable on this one.
Yeah, I do too. I'm really, really happy with it. And it's hard to really poke anything. Like I saw a few people saying like, the amount of goals or whatever, and it's like I don't really understand how he can poke holes in this if you've actually watched the guy play and see what he's worked on and see where the level he's brought his game to. I don't see it's a great contract. And I think it's market value. For a guy that next year and I said it in the previous show, he's going to score 30 to 40. There's no question that Mulsing doesn't get hurt.
You know what? One of the things that makes me feel more comfortable too is when you look back at his first game, right? And you look at where he's coming, then what has he played? What did I say? 77 games. He's played 112 career NHL games, which is not a lot when you think about it. But look at the progression we've seen improvement the whole time. We've just seen upward
very
trend,
linear, yeah.
Right? So, I mean, is that not a great sign that that we're safe and moving in the right direction here? I think I always look at everything in life as like risk reward, and I feel like the reward outweighs the risk here.
There's no question at all about that. Like none. There's not much of a risk, quite honestly. I mean, given his age and where he's at in his career, I mean, there's always some. I mean, look what happened with Sharon Govich. We didn't expect this year to be that poor for him, right?
Yeah, I think we'll see a bounce back there. But I mean,
well, and I think so too. But I mean, it's about as minimal risk as you can have with a young player, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I like the age he's at. And like we said, the progression is there. But now I have a couple questions for you on some of the other RFAs. And this one here is one of the more interesting ones. And one that I think we'll talk a little bit more as this summer, because I don't think this is going to be one that Craig Connery is going to have a real easy time with. Because when I started thinking about what I would do with this guy, I was at a loss. And that's Morgan Frost. Do you dare go term? Where do you go with this guy? And even what number do you go with this guy? What are your thoughts on that?
Bridge. You have to bridge him. I have a hard time with the number. That's where I struggle. I want to say like 2 years at like 4 million per, maybe.
I said 2 years at 3.5 or 3 years at 4.5.
Mm-hmm. I'd be okay with that.
I feel a little safer with the 2 at 3.5 just because I want to see what he does here. I don't know what Morgan Frost I see him play and I'm like, he's dynamic and this looks great and this looks great. And I'm like, wow, this is really good, but it doesn't seem to end up in the back of the net. So it does create a little fear for me. And I would be shocked if we did anything longer than 3 years. I'd be shocked.
That would be a significant risk, to compare it to the conversation just said about Coronato. Would be a significant risk. I feel.
But then again, it was a risk to go out and get this guy. And we've obviously done the legwork on it. So I don't know. I still think it's going to be a 2-3 year deal, but I'm very interested, and I think this one might drag out a little bit longer than what. And I'm also interested in what Morgan Frost camp thinks and wants.
I don't know what kind of leverage he has. I don't know what kind of leg he has to stand on.
I agree. I agree. We all think he could be a 30 goal scorer, but can he?
No, I don't. I shouldn't say that. I said before, 60-point player. I felt that was his trajectory, and now I'm not sure. I don't know. I go back and forth on him.
I do too. It's a tough one. So, and here's another tough one. What do you do with Adam Klapka, who's an RFA? We talked about it last week. I got him pigeonholed. I got him as an NHL player. I got him on the fourth line. But what do you do? What if he says, I want 4 years? Do you do that? And what price tag do you give Adam Klapka?
That one I think you don't know what you have with him. I don't think you go beyond a year. He might do 2 if he'd probably want 2, but you go 1.52 million.
But is he going to want a one-way deal? Like, I would love to sign him at a 2-year, 1.1, $1.5 million two-way deal. But he's not taking that. He's taking a one-way deal now. I guarantee he wants a one-way deal.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he has good reason.
He is an RFA though, so we have leverage. So maybe we can get him on a 1-year deal at $1 million on a two-way deal just for one more year. And then once he proves himself, then we're going to have to pay him, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How about Kevin Ball?
Just give him whatever he wants.
What would you do? Like, what would you do for term? Honestly,
I'd give him max term, and I'd give him like $5 million per. Yeah, absolutely. Love the guy.
I wrote down 5 years at 4.5.
That's a great contract. I think he wants him longer, and I think we should give him longer.
Really?
Yep, I do. I just think he's so effective. He's so effective.
I'm very interested to see what happens on that one. Very interested. Another one that I can almost guarantee is going to be a bridge is Connor Zary. With his injuries, I don't know how it can't be a bridge, and I think it should be a bridge. What do you do? 2 years at what do you think he's gonna warrant?
That's a hard one because the injuries. I don't think he go beyond. Yeah, I'd be happy with that. Yeah,
2 years, 3.5. See what happens.
And I think good things are going to happen. I think this year was an aberration for sure.
I do too. But I don't think you can. I don't think we're in a place where you sign him to a 7-year deal.
No. It was trending that way at one point, but it's just knee injuries are tricky. He's still young and still does so many things well, but I don't know.
I just think you play that one safe, and I think he was probably going to understand and think the same thing. Now we have here, let's get to the biggest one. Okay, Dustin Wolf is not an RFA right now, but he's going to be.
He's eligible to sign an extension, yeah.
In July. And we hear everybody say, give him a blank check. If you do a bridge, which I think he's going to want, a bridge. What do you do? 2 years at 5?
Oh, yeah, I don't want to bridge him, but yeah, I would do that.
I don't either, but if he's smart, I think that's where the money's at for him to betting on himself, isn't it?
I would say so, yeah. Yeah, I think it makes sense.
If you went to him right now, though, this is the only thing I was thinking. Now, he's another American, which we make a deal out of that. When should we not? I don't know. Yeah, probably. If you went to him with 8 times 8, would he take that?
Based on what Coronato took, not that that's necessarily any way comparable, but
goalies are different though.
Yeah, but younger American, there's some similarities there. I think it's a coin toss, but I think he would, because he's still going to have lots of prime. He's going to have lots of prime years beyond that.
I think it'd be hard for, what is he, 22 now? A 22-year-old man to look away at $64 million.
Yeah,
that'd be hard. I don't know. I don't know what he does. What number do you think is too high?
I wouldn't, because there's such a. I mean, he's always been a success, but I wouldn't want to go above 8.5 just because goalies are so fickle. I know, I'm with you. But I mean, if they signed him at like 9, it's like, hey, this feels risky, even though I know he's a superstar and I've said he's going to be a superstar, but. This is what's so tricky with all these young players right on this team.
So is it smarter to not give him a contract right now and wait till he goes into his RFA year? We don't have to. See how he does next year. I don't have any doubt that he's not going to be a good player. I don't. But we are wrong sometimes, right? I think he proved
all the time. That's part of being a hockey. It's part of being a human being.
He proved to me everything that he needed to prove this year, which would make me open my checkbook. But I don't know. Is it smarter to watch him play 50 more games? It doesn't hurt us anything because he's an RFA at the end. I'm not going to be upset if this team doesn't have him locked up come October 1 this year. I'm not. That does not mean at all that he's not going to be here long term. It doesn't mean that anything to that.
I don't know. I have such a hard time with this one, man. I really do. And I think I want to say, like, as these dominoes fall around him, because I don't think, well, for whatever reason, I don't think he's going to be the next one to sign. But as these pieces fall into place and it becomes apparent what direction the team's going in with this young core of theirs, I think it's going to become more apparent what he's willing to do in terms of how much he's going to commit, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of players watch now is like, give me reasons to, it's like any relationship, give me reasons to stay, right? Give me reasons to want to be here.
There's a good odds that he says, I'm not talking contract this year. Because what if he goes out next year and wins a Vezina?
I don't know that he has the leverage to not talk it, though. I think there's going to be lots of discussion. I don't think he's more humble than that.
Yeah, no, I know, but you know how agents are too. Doesn't he have Pat Brisson too?
Yes, yeah.
I'm almost positive he does. And he's savvy. Correct. He knows what he's doing. It'll be interesting. That'll be an interesting one.
That'll be the talk. Other than the Anderson situation, that's probably the next biggest topic.
Probably. UFAs, rattle through those real quick. Get your take. Anthony Mantha, sign or don't sign?
That sucks because I'd love to see that guy get a mulligan. That was so unfortunate.
I know. I just don't know if we have a roster.
I give him a PTO.
Yeah.
Give him a PTO.
Kevin Rooney.
No, he's good. It's the sunset on that. Just move on.
Here's an interesting one. Justin Kirkland.
1 year, 2-way deal.
2-way only though, right?
Yeah, it was a Cinderella story. I get that, but like,
I know, me too. I because if they don't sign him, I'm not going to lose sleep. Because nobody during the run to get to the playoffs, nobody was like, "Boy, I wish we had Kirkland here tonight."
I mean,
well, I know you did because you wanted Rooney on the lineup.
Well, I don't know. That's a hard one because I mean he's a role player and he had some really cool moments, and those cool moments kind of really put a shine on what he otherwise is, which is he's been a tweener his entire career.
Yep.
I'd like to believe he's a late bloomer, but that's a bit of a stretch. So I absolutely think he deserves to stay with this team, and he brought a lot to the table when he did play, far more than anybody anticipated. But
yeah,
I don't know. I'd give him a 1 year, 2-way contract, especially given the nature of his injury. That's a big one to come back from at his age, and for anybody at any age for that matter.
Oh, and I'd feel comfortable doing that too. I really would. Dryden Hunt, what would you do there?
No, I'm done. Really? Unless he's going to stay in the AHL. I'm tired of these guys that are always in the middle. They're always in the middle, I think that's a bad habit. It's for a lot of teams. I don't dislike the player. I'm tired of seeing these names recycled year over year.
If you could get him to be your every AHL team needs that veteran guy, right?
Yeah,
I'd be fine with that. Joel Hanley, what are we doing? It's a really hard one.
That's probably the toughest one. Yeah. Well, I think you want to retain him, but I memean, I don't know how you temper that value that I think is really at his age and given that he played with Uyghur. That's tough.
Is somebody going to give him good money? Because he's a UFA, he can go anywhere.
Yeah, I think he'd like to stay, and he said as much. But money talks, and I think somebody's going to overpay for him.
Yeah,
and I hope he has another year like the one he had this year. I really do hope that for him. But again, similar to the Kirkland situation, that it's an absolute outlier, and therefore you have to tread carefully, right?
Yeah.
And again, I want to emphasize this again. Good for him. Great season. Really,
he was a fun story. He really was. He was a fun story this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dan Vladar is the final one we're talking about.
When we talked about this a fair bit already.
We did. And we'll just touch on it quickly here because we did talk about a fair amount a couple weeks ago. But I stand tall on that. I'd be totally fine if we gave this guy 2 years at $3 million per. I'd be totally fine.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't know that we can go out and find a backup that's any better than him.
I don't think that we can. I don't know of any on the market, and
we already see that him and Wolf were good together. Like, what's there to prove here anymore, right?
I mean, it's not just that; it's the fact that the Plan B had a major injury, and his play fell off when he came back.
Oh yeah.
Or the Plan C, I guess you could call him, just based on the depth chart. But yeah. I think we have to run that tandem back based on what happened. But again, like Hanley, I do see somebody out there saying, "Hey, he was a really good backup. We should try and sign this guy." So he's going to have to want to stay.
Give him more than 3. I don't think anybody gives him more than 3. I thought I was generous there. I was very generous.
Yeah, I think so too, because goalies, in a sense, can be considered a dime a dozen because it's a backup, right? But every now and then, I mean, look what Calvin Pickett's doing in Edmonton. I mean, it's a very important position, right?
Yeah.
So, but we'll see how Pickard plays against the Knights, obviously. But yeah.
So if I told you we had 3 more things that need to get done before the season starts, if you're a Flames general manager, what would they be?
I think you got to find a 4th line center.
Yeah.
I think they've really undervalued how important that role is. Well,
that might be Justin Kirkland. We don't know.
Well, it could be, but I mean, I think they need to have another option just in case, because that type of surgery is such that he may have lost a step. So that's one of the bigger things. In terms of scoring, I don't see a whole lot unless there's a trade that makes sense where you can trade out some of these defensive prospects for a real impact scoring player that fits that age group they keep talking about. So I think that one, let's skirt around the idea of upgrading their scoring for sure. But I do think if Hanley leaves, for example, or more so if something happens with Rasmus Anderson, they may have to look at a veteran D as kind of a stopgap option while they get guys like Parekh or Morin or Bristevich or whoever up to speed at the NHL level. So let me ask you the same thing. And I'm sure there's some overlap here, but outside of what I said, what else do you see as a need for this team, or what should they be focused on this summer?
Left D, veteran left D. I think the biggest things are going to have to be taken care of. I think the number one thing that needs to be taken care of this offseason is we need to have a stone cold decision on Rasmus Anderson. We need to know.
Yep.
It's hard to build this without knowing the future of that. I also think that we need to be open to hearing offers on Kadri. I know that sounds crazy. I know that sounds ludicrous, but I think we need to be open.
I don't think it does. No, I don't think it does at all.
I'm not saying trade him. I'm saying explore, because if we can pair that into getting a younger prospect along with maybe a Rasmus Anderson, you don't know what we could pair there together, because God knows we need a big right-handed center. We want to draft one this year. Time will tell, right?
Yeah. Well, and there's some interesting things too to watch going into camp that we don't want to gloss over too much. And I know they're long shots, but guys like Carter King, like desirable NCAA type players that could, Sam Morton, we don't talk about him a lot because he was kind of overshadowed by the other debuts in game 82. There's a lot of little things that could fill out this roster conceivably, because every year there's surprises, and Coronato's emergence, Wolf being as good as he was. It's just, and that's the joy of the sport, right? Is you don't know who's going to really step up and seize an opportunity. So outside of the UFA market or any potential trades, there's some internal options that I still think are very intriguing. But we're not going to know anything about them until October, November, right? Because we've seen before, strong training camp does not translate to a strong regular season. Look at Sam Honzek. Where does he fit next year, right?
Well, and he might be the guy that shocks the world next year and sticks too.
It's like anybody else, man. You put in a good summer, you're working your foot speed, your agility, your strength, whatever it is that you work on, your focus, your mental health. If you bring any of those things back better, then
look how much he progressed last year. He comes into camp and he wins a spot, and then he struggles a little bit, which is to be expected, right? And then he goes down to the minors, and we just kind of wrote him off, right? And I know he didn't have like a barn burner year for the Wranglers, but I mean, this guy is still young, and I'm not sending this guy to pasture yet. I still think there's hope there.
Yep, I think so too. Yep, and he kind of got forgotten because other guys had emerged, but after his demotion, and I think it was important for him to go down to the Wranglers and kind of round his game out. But it's funny, I haven't thought about him much since that happened. I really haven't, and I know a lot of people probably are in a similar situation.
I'm guilty of that too. But I mean, you look. I always view things when we look at slots on the roster. I think we need to fill them with people that we know that can play that spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then we take our prospects and the ones that perform and push those people out, then they hit waivers and go bye-bye. We just don't sign anybody long-term so that we can move people and manipulate that and leave room for these young players, right? But we can't just say, well, we know. I'm using him as an example, but I mean, we can't just say, well, we're going to keep that wing slot open for Honzek next year. And then all of a sudden Hanzik struggles through camp, and it's like, well, shoot, now what do we do?
Well, and that's the difficult balancing act of, signing insurance policies for players you think will play in your lineup and making sure they don't block players who are ready, and also you don't want to take players who you think are ready who aren't and elevate them in the roles that they're just not going to succeed in, right? We got very lucky, for example, in the 13-14 season with Sean Monahan when he potted 20 goals and was a pretty damn good, mature player for being so young. Yep. That doesn't happen very often. And how do you continue to build a competitive roster at a time when there's that push to get better? Like, again, I talk about 15-16 season where everybody thought because the Flames made the playoffs, they're taking another step forward. I think this is different. I do think the Flames will make the playoffs next year because the pieces that they need to be successful have already done so and have proven they can do it, over the course of a full season. But supplementing that is very difficult. Signing the right pieces, trading the right pieces to get good things back that can help you in the immediate, but also not sacrifice what you're trying to build. So we can hopefully get away from this moniker of mediocrity that's been plaguing this team for most of its existence, right?
Yeah. No, it's a balancing act, isn't it? But you know what? It's about times that some of those breaks and go our way, right? I mean,
yep.
I don't live life on luck here, but like I do believe that it all cycles through, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. So it's going to be, it's interesting. And I'm going to ask you this now, and it'll come up, of course, throughout the summer. But right now, knowing what little we do know about the state of the team in terms of the composition, I guess we know a fair bit, but there's lots of questions. Do you think this team makes the playoffs next season in 26?
I would. Gosh, that's terrible to say. I would say the Vegas odds for me would be less that they don't make, or would be more that they don't make the playoffs. But boy, I feel like they're there, right? Like if we can just have a couple of guys pop, a couple of guys elevate their game, get Coronato and to elevate just one more step, hey, get Zari to be healthy and elevate a step, boy, the door's open for us to make the playoffs. And if we're sitting here a year from now talking about us in round one, winning or losing, I'd be happy. And I wouldn't be that surprised if we made the playoffs because I think our goaltending is great. I think the biggest cog in this that's going to determine that, yes, everybody points to scoring, and I will too, but it's how these young defensive prospects fill these holes or how we fill these holes defensively. Because I don't care how good of offense or how good or bad you are offensively. If you suck defensively, it's really, really hard to make the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I think that, is going to be a real determining factor.
Yep, absolutely. I think they're going to make it just because I think Wolf is just that damn good, and I don't. There's always concerns about sophomore slump for a guy like Coronato potentially, or even Wolf, but I don't. Based on how they play the game, I don't see that being an issue to any major extent, anyway. So that'd be interesting to see. But we have so many things to talk about this summer, which is why we've committed to doing this as often as we have. I mean, apart from the fact we love doing it, it's that there's just so many things that need to be covered.
Doesn't seem like there's an off season in sports anymore.
Well, there isn't, right? Not in. Well, I mean, there is in a literal sense, but the off season is so busy. I mean, you always want to know who your next rookie is going to be, who are you going to sign, who are you going to trade, who's going to retire. Even like a lot of teams out there have pretty big. Like David Savard retired from the Montreal Canadiens, another former Moncton Wildcat. Marc-Andre Fleury, of course, is retired. Patrick Maroon's retired. Those are, they're not. They might be older, but they're not insignificant pieces on the teams that they play for.
Yeah. Time goes fast. Holy cow.
Big time.
Two things I got to get your opinion on before we leave here today. I read today that Frank Saravelli is leaving Daily Faceoff, which was surprising news to me.
Where's he going? Do we know?
Doesn't say. He said he's fulfilling his contract through July 1st, and he'll be a free agent. Any speculation on where you'll see Frank Saravelli?
Probably somewhere in Calgary, given that's what he's, kind of hitched his wagon to, and good for him. I
found that very interesting news today.
He's a bit of a, I don't want to say polarizing.
I like listening to him. I do.
He's interesting, but some of his takes I struggle a bit with, and some of them I find. But I mean, you can say it about anybody. That just means he's doing his job, right? So, he's going to have lots of opportunity, and I wish him well wherever he goes. But I mean, I'll give him full credit for the fact that he's typically right at the heart of whatever's going on.
He is.
And he doesn't come across, like certain people in the Calgary media might, and we all know the one guy I'm referring to, who has me blocked on X, and that's my badge of honor. Yeah, I'm interested to see where he goes. So yeah, what else you got?
Derek Lalonde is doing Hockey Night in Canada.
Yes, yeah.
Like or dislike?
It's okay. So it's always tricky. It's always tricky to take a coach or a scout or somebody who works in the game at a different level and put them in the media because the roles could not be more different, right?
Uh-huh.
It makes it difficult in a sense because they're just not camera ready. Like the presentation, the enunciation, like even Tortorella, people thought it was funny, but he was awful in the media because he didn't really want to be there, right? Or at least he made it seem that way, which may be part of his shtick. But I've enjoyed it because I think he brings a real coach's perspective to it. Some of it's a bit redundant and obvious, but that's hockey talk in a lot of circles. But I like seeing coaches get the opportunity to have, to have their say on a panel, for example. And I do think he contributes something. I will say that, but these aren't pros like the Kelly Rudies of the world or the Elliot Friedmans, right? And I don't think they're meant to be, but I mean, you got to temper your expectations, right? Now remember, I'm a guy that was a big fan of George Stroumboulopoulos doing Hockey Night in Canada the one season he did because it was different and it was engaging. Yeah. And I'm not saying it was the long-term answer, but it was cool, right? It kind of broke up that old boys club culture that hockey's or pro sports really are notorious for. So what's your take on him?
He brings good knowledge, I think, but his presentation is so non-entertaining that I just find myself going, oh boy, I miss Bruce Boudreau. He just told me the same stuff, but he was comical when he did it. I don't know. Just the entertainment value is just really, really not.
Yeah, Bruce Boudreau, I just always think about him at the draft and meeting Kevin Owens in Montreal because he's such a big wrestling fan and he just freaked out like such a mark. And it was so cool.
He's just a comical guy. He's just
and he likes the stupid things the rest of us like, and everybody does, but he's honest about it and forward about who he is. So yeah, it was cool.
Okay, I got to bug you with one more thing. I've had this on my list of things to ask you for 5 episodes and never got to it.
Wow. Okay.
If you were an NHL player and you could have a 5-team no trade list, what 5 teams are you having?
Okay, so there's a qualifier here. I don't know enough about a lot of these markets because I haven't lived there.
No, right? I haven't lived there, but none of these guys do either. None of these guys
signed
I'm not live there either. I'm just saying, I know 5 teams that I'm not going to play for, and they're going to surprise you.
I don't want to go to Toronto.
Oh, they're not on mine. I'll go to Toronto.
I'm not interested in Toronto. I'm not going to. I'm sure you wouldn't go to Minnesota.
They're not on my list.
Huh. Wow. Close to home, I guess, though, at least. I don't know if I can give you 5 because I maybe because I'm nowhere near that, that level ever that I feel like I'd be so privileged.
I'm not even.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I feel like I'm so far removed from that privilege that it's hard for me to give you an accurate answer because I just say I'll play for anybody. But off the top of my head, I wouldn't want to go to Toronto. I wouldn't want to go to Ottawa only because their arena's in the middle of nowhere and it drives me crazy. I wouldn't want to go to Seattle. That's kind of a tough one. Seattle and Utah because it's just such an underdeveloped place in some respects from what people tell me. Again, I want to be careful here because it is beautiful here. Seattle, I'm not sure the direction that team is really going.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I'd really want to live in Vegas, to be honest.
Oh, really? See, they'd be up. I'd be fine with that.
I think most people would. I don't know if that lifestyle, like it's like everybody visits and nobody lives there kind of thing, kind of maybe stuck in my head. I don't know. Well, yeah, what do you got?
New Jersey, San Jose, Anaheim, Seattle, and Dallas.
Any particular reason for any of those?
New Jersey, just because I can't. Have you ever been to New Jersey before?
No.
I don't like it there. San Jose, I don't know if I could do the tax thing in California and that lifestyle. I don't think I could do it. I'd swallow it and be there in LA though, because it's a better organization. Anaheim, that's same thing as the San Jose reason. Seattle, I'm not living in that place. I am not living in that hole. That is a hole. Not going there.
I apologize to all of our Seattle listeners on behalf of Brad.
That's okay. Dallas. I have Dallas on there. This sounds really, really crazy, but when I was a little kid, before the Flames existed to me, the Minnesota North Stars were the only team I knew because they would come play preseason games in Minot.
Oh, okay.
It's crazy to think because we didn't even have a big arena, but they came here twice. They played the Flyers one time, and they played the 1984 U.S. Olympic team that had Chris Chelios on it. They came and played here, and the Minnesota North Stars would go to this grocery store and sign autographs, and I'd always get to go. And I met Bobby Smith and had good time there. So I was really pissed off when they left and went to Dallas because the North Stars probably would have been my favorite team, but I was just starting to develop into hockey at that time. So I'm not going to Dallas. That's a dumb reason, but that's why I'm not going to Dallas. Plus, have you ever been to Texas?
No.
Not the greatest place. Sorry, Dallas fans.
It's all. I mean, it's all a matter of perspective. I mean, there's a million people say they would never play in Calgary or Edmonton or maybe Vancouver. They don't want to go to Toronto, like I said, probably because the pressure mostly. I don't get a good. I don't know. I just don't think like that's a. Just feel like that place I want to be.
You know what? Honestly, Kyle, if we could travel to all the cities, our list would be completely different.
Oh, 100%. It's a fun little exercise, though. I'd be curious to see how it would change because I always hated the city of Edmonton, but I'll admit that it's grown on me as a city. Never mind the team. That's a separate discussion.
Never mind. I'm forgetting to give you the reason I brought this up. 111 players were anonymously polled for this.
Mm-hmm.
You want to hear the top 5?
Give her.
Winnipeg, 48% of the players had Winnipeg. 19.5 had Buffalo. San Jose was 3 with 8.5. Calgary, 4 with 3.6. Ottawa, 5, 3.6. Anaheim, 6, 2.4. And the New York Rangers, 7th, 2.4.
Buffalo, nothing to do with the city of Buffalo. It's just that organization is a train wreck. Man, that's terribly run. And you've bemoaned that more than anybody.
I love their fans. Play their.
So do I. A good friend of mine is a fan of theirs, and man, I wish he had some success to enjoy. But anyway,
me too. Well, we want a success for Buffalo. We've always had a soft spot for them, and we also have for Winnipeg. So come on, Winnipeg, let's get this done this year.
Yeah, it'd be cool. Yeah, and if this was a Vancouver or Edmonton jersey, I'm sure people would be more upset with me. I think they'll understand that I'm wearing a Jets jersey because small market Canadian team that gave us one of the. Again, I said this at the outset of the show, one of the best hockey games you're ever going to see, and hopefully it keeps guys like us whose team is in it engaged in the playoffs throughout the remainder.
We'll give you a pass in this one.
Perfect.
All right, Flames fans, let's get on with your week. If you do get time, stop on over to flamesunfiltered.ca. Sign up for our newsletter. You'll get that every week, episode information. We're going to be doing some promotions, some giveaways coming up here, some things planned. So get on over, subscribe to that. Next week's episode will actually be what we were going to do this week. Next week, we're going to talk about obscure Flames players that Kyle and I really like watching and cheered for. Fun episode. A summer episode. Coronato's signing. Changed that this week, which was exciting. We want to talk about that too. So barring any other signings, trades, whatnot, we will be there next week talking obscure favorite Flames.
Looking forward to it. That'll be an interesting one for sure. Be lots of opinions.
That's right. We made it, Cal. Another episode in the books. Always fun.
All right, guys. Absolutely. Always is.
As we leave today, Booze and Tuna, the original band that we featured on this podcast. Get on over to Spotify, Apple Music. Check those guys out. And have a good week, Flames fans. Enjoy round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
You'll be the blood on my boots.
Thanks for listening to Flames Unfiltered with Brad Burud and Kyle Lewis, your source for unfiltered Calgary Flames hockey talk. Keep it locked on flamesunfiltered.ca. Subscribe where you get all your podcasts to never miss an episode. Flames hockey talk every week, presented by Inside Edge Hockey Media Group.